You woke up this morning and something felt different. Maybe it was subtle at first, a quality of light streaming through your window that seemed somehow more alive, more present. Maybe it was the way your coffee tasted, carrying a richness you hadn't noticed before. Or perhaps it was something deeper, something that made you pause mid-step and think, wait, something has changed. Most people dismiss these moments. They rationalize them away, tell themselves it's just imagination, just wishful thinking. They've been conditioned to believe that reality is fixed, that the timeline they're living is the only timeline available, that shifting between probable futures is the stuff of science fiction. But here's what no one tells you. You've been timeline jumping your entire life. Every decision you make, every shift in consciousness, every moment of genuine choice creates a quantum split where multiple realities become available simultaneously. And right now, in this very moment as you're listening to these words, you may have just shifted into what the quantum field knows as your chosen timeline. The signs are everywhere if you know how to read them. Let me explain what's really happening when reality feels different, when synchronicities start multiplying, when the universe seems to be responding to your thoughts faster than ever before. Let me show you why that feeling of something has shifted isn't just your imagination. It's your consciousness recognizing that you've quantum jumped into a probability stream that's been waiting for you to arrive. This is the science of timeline shifting. This is the moment when the observer effect stops being theory and becomes your lived experience. You see, quantum physics has revealed something revolutionary about the nature of reality itself. At the subatomic level, particles exist in what scientists call superposition. They exist in multiple states simultaneously until the moment they're observed. The act of observation itself collapses the wave function and determines which reality manifests. But here's where it gets profound. Consciousness isn't separate from this quantum process. Consciousness is the observer. And when your consciousness shifts, when your awareness expands, when you begin to embody a different version of yourself, you literally collapse different wave functions. You select different realities from the infinite field of possibility. The timeline you were living yesterday operated under the patterns, beliefs, and vibrational signatures of who you were being yesterday. But consciousness is fluid. Awareness can expand. And when it does, when you step into alignment with a higher frequency version of yourself, the quantum field responds by delivering experiences that match that new vibrational signature. This is why reality suddenly feels different. This is why opportunities appear out of nowhere. This is why people respond to you differently. Why doors open that were previously closed. Why life seems to flow with an ease that wasn't there before. You haven't just changed your mindset, you've shifted timelines. And there are specific signs that reveal when this quantum shift has occurred. Signs that most people miss because they're looking for dramatic, obvious changes instead of recognizing the subtle but profound reorganization of reality that happens when consciousness elevates. The first sign is what quantum physicists call temporal displacement, when your experience of time itself begins to shift. You might notice that days feel longer, more spacious, even though you're accomplishing more than ever before. Or you might find that time seems to compress in the most beautiful way, where hours pass like minutes when you're in flow with activities that align with your highest purpose. This isn't psychological, this is physics. When you shift into your chosen timeline, you're literally operating at a different vibrational frequency, and time is frequency dependent. Einstein showed us that time is relative, but what most people don't understand is that consciousness affects your relationship to time. Higher consciousness experiences time differently because it's accessing different layers of the quantum field. But here's what makes this even more profound. The chosen timeline isn't something you arrive at and then stay in forever. It's something you align with moment by moment, choice by choice, breath by breath. It's a frequency you tune into, like finding the perfect station on a radio that suddenly brings crystal clear reception to music you've been trying to hear your whole life. The second sign is synchronicity acceleration. Not just occasional meaningful coincidences, but a cascade of interconnected events that feel orchestrated by an intelligence far greater than your conscious mind. You think of someone and they call. You need a specific piece of information and it appears in conversation, in a book, in a random social media post. You wonder about a particular direction for your life, and 3 different people mention opportunities in that exact field within the same week. Carl Jung called synchronicity a causal connecting principle, events connected by meaning rather than cause and effect. But quantum field theory suggests something even more remarkable. When you align with your chosen timeline, you become coherent with the organizing intelligence of the universe itself. Your consciousness begins to entangle with the web of connections that governs how reality organizes itself. Think about this for a moment. Let that sink in. When you shift into your chosen timeline, you're not just changing your personal experience, you're aligning with the fundamental creative force of existence. You're becoming co-creative with the intelligence that moves the stars, that orchestrates the dance of galaxies, that knows how to grow an oak tree from an acorn and a human being from a single cell. The third sign is what I call resonance recognition. When you start encountering people, opportunities, and experiences that feel deeply familiar even though you're meeting them for the first time. It's that sense of, I've been waiting for this, or this is exactly what I needed, or how did they know exactly what I was looking for? This happens because your chosen timeline contains relationships and experiences that are vibrational matches to who you're becoming. As you shift into higher coherence with your authentic self, the quantum field begins delivering people and circumstances that support and reflect that authenticity. But here's the part that challenges everything you've been taught about how life works. You're not attracting these experiences through force or manipulation. You're not manifesting them through visualization techniques or positive thinking. You're aligning with them through a much more subtle and powerful process: coherence. Coherence is what happens when your thoughts, emotions, intentions, and actions come into harmonic alignment. When there's no internal conflict between what you want and what you believe is possible. When there's no resistance between who you know yourself to be and how you're showing up in the world. And when you achieve coherence, something remarkable happens. The electromagnetic field of your heart. Yes, your heart has an electromagnetic field that's 60 times stronger than your brain, begins broadcasting a clear, consistent signal into the quantum field. This signal acts like a tuning fork, causing experiences that match that frequency to resonate and draw near. The fourth sign is elevated emotional baseline. Not just temporary happiness or excitement, but a fundamental shift in your emotional center of gravity. Where you used to experience anxiety as your default, you might now find calm presence. Where you used to feel scarcity and competition, you might now experience abundance and collaboration as natural states. This isn't about suppressing difficult emotions or pretending everything is perfect. It's about recognizing that your emotional signature is literally the language through which you communicate with the quantum field. When you shift timelines, you shift into emotional frequencies that correspond to the experiences available in that timeline. Fear-based emotions create coherence with limitation, struggle, and separation. Love-based emotions create coherence with expansion, ease, and connection. When you shift into your chosen timeline, you're shifting into emotional frequencies that naturally generate experiences aligned with your highest good. Let me share something that might challenge everything you think you know about how change happens. Most people believe that external circumstances need to change in order for them to feel differently. They think they need the perfect job, the ideal relationship, the right amount of money, the proper living situation before they can experience peace, joy, fulfillment, or love. But quantum field theory reveals the opposite. Consciousness creates reality, not the other way around. The internal shift precedes and generates the external transformation. When you embody the emotional signature of your chosen timeline, when you feel abundant before the money arrives, when you feel loved before relationship manifests, when you feel purposeful before the career clarity comes, you create the vibrational conditions that allow those external experiences to collapse from potential into actuality. The fifth sign is what I call effortless alignment, when right action begins to feel natural rather than forced, when the things that support your highest good start feeling like the easiest, most obvious choices rather than disciplines you have to impose upon yourself. You might find yourself naturally eating foods that nourish your body instead of fighting cravings for things that drain your energy. You might discover that waking up early becomes effortless because your body craves the quiet morning hours for reflection and creativity. You might notice that saying no to commitments that don't align with your purpose feels empowering rather than difficult. This happens because your chosen timeline operates according to different organizing principles than survival-based timelines. Instead of being governed by fear, scarcity, and the need to prove your worth, your chosen timeline operates according to love, abundance, and the natural expression of your authentic gifts. When you align with this timeline, resistance begins to dissolve because you're no longer swimming against the current of your own nature. You're flowing with the intelligence that knows who you came here to be and what you came here to contribute. But here's what I need you to understand about timeline shifting. It's not a one-time event that happens to you. It's a continuous process of choice, awareness, and alignment. Every moment offers you the opportunity to either reinforce the timeline you're currently experiencing or shift into a higher probability. And this is where everything changes. Take a moment right now and comment below with this phrase: I choose my highest timeline. Don't just type the words casually. Feel them in your body. Let them be a declaration to the quantum field that you're ready to align with the experiences that support your greatest becoming. This isn't just engagement with a video. This is conscious interruption of any unconscious patterns that have been keeping you locked into limiting timelines. If what we've explored today about timeline shifting and quantum coherence is awakening something deep within you, know that we've only touched the surface of what's possible when you master the complete system of frequency transmission and field consciousness. In my book, Beyond the Frequencies, A Quantum Guide to Consciousness Mastery, I reveal the 9 master frequencies that transform you from someone seeking to manifest into someone who becomes the broadcast itself, moving beyond manifestation into pure embodiment of your chosen reality. It's linked in the pinned comment below. Because here's what most people don't realize. The act of conscious choice itself creates quantum collapse. Every time you make a decision from awareness rather than habit, from love rather than fear, from possibility rather than limitation, you shift the probability wave in favor of experiences that match that elevated choice. The universe is not separate from you. The quantum field is not something external that you have to convince or manipulate. You are an integral part of the creative intelligence that's constantly bringing reality into form. Your consciousness is one of the most powerful forces in existence. When it's coherent, when it's aligned, when it's operating from its natural state of love and expansion, rather than its learned patterns of fear and contraction. And this is where the science becomes profoundly personal. When quantum physicists study the observer effect, they're not just examining abstract particles in laboratory conditions. They're revealing the fundamental nature of how consciousness interacts with reality at every level of existence. Every thought you think sends electromagnetic pulses through your nervous system. Every emotion you feel creates chemical cascades that alter your cellular environment. Every intention you hold generates frequencies that radiate outward from your heart's electromagnetic field and interact with the zero-point field, the invisible matrix of energy that connects all things. Most people have been taught to believe that thoughts and emotions are private, internal experiences that don't affect anything beyond their personal psychological state. But biophysics reveals something revolutionary. Your internal states are constantly broadcasting information into the field of shared reality. When you're operating from fear, scarcity, and limitation, you're literally broadcasting those frequencies into the quantum field and becoming coherent with timelines that reflect those emotional signatures. When you're operating from love, abundance, and possibility, you're broadcasting those frequencies and becoming coherent with timelines that mirror those elevated states. This isn't metaphysics. This is measurable science. The Institute of Heart Math has documented how coherent emotional states create measurable changes in the electromagnetic field around the human body. When you're in heart coherence, when your emotions, thoughts, and intentions are aligned, your heart's electromagnetic field becomes more organized, more powerful, and more far-reaching. And when multiple people achieve heart coherence simultaneously, their fields begin to synchronize and create what researchers call collective coherence. This collective coherence has been measured to affect everything from global consciousness patterns to the electromagnetic field of the Earth itself. This is why your individual timeline shift matters so profoundly. You're not just changing your personal experience, you're contributing to the collective field that influences what timelines become available for everyone. But there's something even deeper happening here. As you shift into your chosen timeline, you begin to remember something that our culture has forgotten. You are not a separate individual consciousness trying to survive in a hostile universe. You are consciousness itself, temporarily focusing through the lens of human experience to explore what it means to create reality through the vehicle of form. This recognition changes everything. Instead of feeling like you have to earn your place in the universe, you begin to understand that the universe exists for the pure joy of experiencing itself through your unique perspective. Instead of believing you have to prove your worth through achievement and acquisition, you start to recognize that your worth is inherent in the very fact that consciousness chose to express itself as you. When this recognition stabilizes, when it moves from intellectual understanding to embodied knowing, your entire relationship to manifestation transforms. You stop trying to get things from the universe and start allowing the universe to express its infinite creativity through you. But shifting into your chosen timeline requires something that our culture doesn't teach: the willingness to let go of who you think you're supposed to be in order to become who you actually are. We've been conditioned to believe that we need to fix ourselves, improve ourselves, work on ourselves endlessly before we're worthy of the life we truly want. We've been taught that transformation requires struggle, that meaningful change must be difficult, that if it feels good, it's probably not spiritual or valuable. This is the old paradigm. This is the limitation programming that keeps consciousness trapped in survival timelines. Your chosen timeline operates according to completely different principles. It recognizes that you are already whole, already perfect, already deserving of every experience that would support your joy, growth, and contribution. It understands that struggle is not a requirement for transformation. Alignment is. When you release the need to earn your worthiness through suffering, when you let go of the belief that you need to prove your value through struggle, when you stop trying to become someone better and start being who you actually are, the quantum field responds by reflecting that coherence back to you in the form of experiences that feel natural, supportive, and expansive. The sixth sign of timeline shifting is recognition resonance. When you start to see yourself differently, and more importantly, when you start to see yourself the way the quantum field has always seen you. Instead of focusing on what's wrong, what needs to be fixed, what you lack or haven't achieved yet, you begin to recognize the perfection of your unique design. You start to see your sensitivity as strength, your questions as intelligence, your desire for deeper meaning as wisdom rather than dissatisfaction. This shift in self-perception isn't positive thinking or self-help affirmations. It's quantum coherence. It's aligning your conscious awareness with the truth that exists at the deepest level of reality. That consciousness itself is creative. That awareness itself is sacred. That your unique perspective and experience are necessary contributions to the evolution of the whole. I'm curious. What's one old pattern or belief about yourself that you're ready to release as you step into this new recognition? Share in the comments below what you're choosing to let go of to make space for your authentic nature to emerge. When you shift into this recognition, everything changes. Not because you've become someone different, but because you've stopped pretending to be someone you're not. If this understanding is touching something in you, if you can feel the truth of these words resonating in your cells, then I invite you to subscribe not just to this channel, but to this frequency. Subscribe to the remembrance that you are consciousness itself, temporarily focused through the lens of human experience. Subscribe to the understanding that reality is far more magical, far more responsive, far more collaborative than you've been taught to believe. Because the more of us who shift into our chosen timelines, the more the collective field shifts toward possibilities that serve the highest good of all beings. Your individual transformation ripples out into the quantum fabric of reality and makes it easier for others to access their own highest timelines. The seventh and most profound sign of timeline shifting is present moment expansion. When you're aligned with your chosen timeline, the present moment becomes rich, textured, alive with possibility and meaning. Instead of constantly thinking about the future you're trying to create or the past you're trying to heal, you find yourself naturally present to the beauty and intelligence that's available right now. This isn't about spiritual bypassing or pretending that challenges don't exist. It's about recognizing that the present moment is the only place where timeline shifts actually occur. The past exists as memory patterns stored in your nervous system. The future exists as possibility waves in the quantum field. But choice happens now. Transformation happens now. Alignment happens now. When you're fully present, you have access to information and intelligence that aren't available when you're mentally time traveling. You can feel the subtle energy currents that indicate which choices will lead to expansion and which will lead to contraction. You can sense the difference between actions that arise from fear and actions that arise from love. You can recognize the opportunities that are perfectly aligned with your highest becoming versus the distractions that will keep you cycling in limitation patterns. This is what indigenous wisdom traditions have always understood. The present moment is the sacred portal through which all healing, all creation, all transformation occurs. Ancient cultures developed elaborate practices for staying present because they recognized that presence is the gateway to accessing the intelligence of the earth, the wisdom of the ancestors, and the guidance of the cosmos. But presence isn't just a spiritual practice. It's a technology for timeline navigation. When you're fully here, fully now, you can feel the quantum field responding to your awareness. You can sense which possibilities are becoming more probable based on your current choices. You can detect the subtle feedback that the universe is constantly providing about whether you're moving toward or away from your highest timeline. Modern life has trained us to live everywhere except the present moment. We're constantly thinking about the past, worrying about the future, planning the next achievement, analyzing the last conversation, scrolling through other people's highlight reels, consuming content that keeps our attention scattered across 1,000 different focal points. But timeline shifting requires presence. It requires the concentrated power of undivided awareness. It requires learning to gather your consciousness into this moment, this breath, this choice, this opportunity to align with who you came here to become. And when you master presence, something extraordinary happens. You begin to experience time itself as an ally rather than an enemy. Instead of feeling like you're running out of time, you start to feel like you have all the time in the universe. Instead of feeling pressured by deadlines and schedules, you begin to move with the natural rhythms that support your highest creativity and effectiveness. This is because linear time, clock time, calendar time, productivity time, is just one layer of temporal reality. When you're present, you gain access to what mystics call eternal time, the timeless dimension where all possibilities exist simultaneously and where your consciousness can explore infinite potential futures before choosing which one to collapse into manifestation. But here's what makes presence even more powerful. When you're fully here, fully now, you become available to be used by the intelligence of life itself. Instead of trying to control outcomes or force results, you can feel into what wants to emerge through you. You become a collaborative partner with the creative force of existence, rather than someone fighting against circumstances or trying to manipulate reality to match your personal preferences. This is how miracles become natural. This is how synchronicities multiply. This is how your chosen timeline stops feeling like something you're trying to reach and starts feeling like something you're already living. And there's something else that happens when you stabilize in timeline coherence. You begin to understand that every person you encounter is also navigating their own quantum field of possibility. Instead of judging others for the timelines they're currently experiencing, you start to see the infinite potential that exists within every consciousness. This doesn't mean you ignore red flags or stay in relationships that drain your energy. It means you recognize that everyone is doing the best they can from their current level of awareness, and that your job is not to fix or save anyone, but to maintain such strong coherence with your own highest timeline that your presence itself becomes an invitation for others to remember their own magnificence. The eighth sign is what I call reality collaboration. When life starts feeling like a dance between your intentions and the universe's intelligence, rather than a battle between your willpower and resistant circumstances. You might notice that solutions to challenges appear before you even fully define the problems. You might find that resources show up exactly when you need them, often in ways you couldn't have planned or predicted. You might discover that the people you need to meet cross your path with perfect timing, as if some invisible intelligence is orchestrating connections that serve everyone's highest good. This is what happens when you stop trying to control reality and start collaborating with it. When you recognize that the same intelligence that grows your hair and beats your heart and orchestrates the seasons is also available to support your dreams, relationships, and creative contributions. But collaboration requires trust. It requires releasing the ego's need to have everything figured out and allowing mystery to be part of the process. It requires accepting that the quantum field might deliver your desires in ways that are far more elegant and effective than anything your conscious mind could have devised. Let me share something that might shift your entire relationship to manifestation. The experiences that align with your chosen timeline often arrive disguised as something completely different than what you thought you wanted. You might pray for financial abundance and receive an opportunity that requires you to develop skills you didn't know you had. You might ask for love and encounter a situation that teaches you how to love yourself more deeply first. You might request clarity about your life purpose and be guided through experiences that strip away everything you thought defined you until you remember who you are underneath all the social conditioning. The quantum field is infinitely intelligent. It knows that what you truly want is not specific circumstances. What you truly want is the feeling, the experience, the state of being that you believe those circumstances will provide. And sometimes the most direct path to that feeling is completely different from what your logical mind assumes it should be. This is why timeline shifting requires surrender alongside intention. It requires holding your desires lightly while staying powerfully committed to the feeling signature of your highest good. It requires trusting that consciousness knows how to navigate complexity in ways that transcend the limitations of linear thinking. The ninth sign of successful timeline shifting is integrated embodiment. When the higher frequencies you've been accessing start to become your new normal, rather than peak experiences you occasionally touch into. Your nervous system begins to recalibrate to accommodate higher levels of energy, creativity, and aliveness. What used to feel overwhelming now feels natural. What used to trigger anxiety now generates curiosity. What used to create resistance now invites exploration. This doesn't happen overnight. The human nervous system needs time to integrate new levels of coherence. But as you consistently choose thoughts, emotions, and actions that align with your chosen timeline, your biological systems gradually adapt to support these elevated states. You might notice that you need less stimulation to feel satisfied, that your body craves stillness, nature, and simplicity more than constantly busy entertainment, that your energy levels stabilize at a higher baseline, even though you're no longer running on stress hormones and caffeine. This is your system learning to draw energy from alignment rather than struggle, from presence rather than perpetual motion, from the inexhaustible source of consciousness itself rather than external validation and achievement. And as this integration deepens, you begin to realize something profound. Your chosen timeline isn't just about your personal happiness or success. It's about becoming a clear channel for whatever wants to be birthed through you for the benefit of the whole. Maybe you're here to create art that helps people remember their own beauty. Maybe you're here to develop technologies that work in harmony with natural systems. Maybe you're here to parent children in ways that honor their authentic nature. Maybe you're here to heal ancestral patterns that have been limiting your family lineage for generations. Your chosen timeline is the one where you're fully available to fulfill your unique role in the larger story of consciousness, awakening to itself through form. But here's what makes this even more beautiful. As you align with your chosen timeline, you automatically create permission for others to access theirs. Your coherence generates a morphic field that makes it easier for people in your environment to remember their own possibilities. This is how individual transformation becomes collective transformation. This is how personal healing becomes planetary healing. This is how choosing your highest timeline serves not just your own evolution, but the evolution of consciousness itself. The 10th and most significant sign is timeline stability. When living from your chosen frequency stops requiring constant effort and starts feeling like coming home to yourself. You're no longer desperately trying to maintain positive thoughts or force yourself into spiritual practices that feel like disciplines. Instead, you're naturally drawn to choices that support your expansion because those choices feel good in your body, create energy rather than drain it, and generate experiences that inspire rather than deplete you. This is mastery, not perfection, mastery. The ability to consistently choose love over fear, presence over distraction, possibility over limitation, not because you're forcing yourself to be spiritual, but because you've remembered that these choices actually feel better in your nervous system. You've recalibrated your internal guidance system to recognize that anxiety is information about misalignment, that resistance is feedback about swimming against your natural current, that exhaustion is often a sign that you're trying to be someone you're not, rather than expressing who you are. Your nervous system becomes exquisitely sensitive to the difference between choices that generate life force energy and choices that deplete it. You start to notice that certain conversations leave you feeling expanded, while others leave you feeling contracted. You begin to recognize that some environments naturally elevate your consciousness, while others drain your vitality. This sensitivity isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's your system learning to navigate reality according to what serves your highest evolution, rather than what you've been conditioned to believe you should want or need. And as this sensitivity develops, you realize something profound. The old timeline operated according to external validation and social approval. You made choices based on what others expected, what would make you look successful, what would keep you safe from criticism or rejection. But your chosen timeline operates according to internal coherence and authentic alignment. You make choices based on what feels true in your body, what generates energy rather than depletes it, what honors your unique design rather than forcing you to conform to templates that were never meant for you. This shift from external validation to internal navigation is one of the most challenging aspects of timeline shifting, because it requires releasing the addiction to approval that our culture systematically creates. From earliest childhood, we're taught that love is conditional, that we receive affection, attention, and acceptance when we behave in ways that please others and lose connection when we express our authentic nature. But your chosen timeline is built on a completely different foundation: unconditional self-acceptance. The recognition that you are worthy of love, respect, and beautiful experiences not because of what you do or achieve or become, but simply because consciousness chose to express itself as you. When this recognition stabilizes in your nervous system, when it becomes more than just a nice idea and starts to feel like cellular truth, everything changes. You stop trying to earn your worth through performance and start expressing your worth through presence. You stop forcing yourself to be likable and start being so authentically yourself that you naturally attract people who genuinely appreciate your unique qualities. And from this place of stability, something magical happens. You stop needing reality to be different in order for you to feel good. You stop waiting for external validation to confirm your worth. You stop postponing your joy until circumstances improve. Instead, you begin generating the energy signature you want to experience, and then watching in amazement as reality reorganizes itself to match that frequency. This is the ultimate timeline shift, when you realize that you are not at the mercy of circumstances. You are the consciousness through which circumstances arise. Take a moment now and breathe into this recognition. Feel it in your cells. Let your nervous system register the truth that you have always been the creative force in your own experience. You have always been the observer whose awareness collapses infinite possibilities into specific realities. The only question is whether you've been creating consciously or unconsciously, from love or from fear, from the remembrance of your magnificence, or from the forgetting of who you actually are. Your chosen timeline is always available. It's not something you have to earn or achieve or qualify for. It's something you align with through the coherence of your thoughts, emotions, intentions, and actions. It's something you choose moment by moment, breath by breath, decision by decision. And as you continue to make these choices, as you continue to align with the frequency of your highest potential, you'll notice that reality becomes increasingly responsive to your authentic desires. Not the desires born from lack or comparison or the need to prove your worth, but the desires that arise from the pure creative impulse of consciousness itself. These are the desires that serve not just your personal fulfillment, but the evolution of the whole. These are the dreams that exist not just for your individual happiness, but for the contribution you came here to make. And when you align with these authentic desires, when you shift into the timeline where expressing your true nature feels natural and supported, you discover something extraordinary. You're not just living your chosen timeline, you're helping to create it for everyone else too. What moment today showed you that reality was responding differently to your energy? Drop a comment about the synchronicity, the unexpected flow, or the subtle shift you noticed. Your sharing creates ripples that help others recognize their own timeline shifts happening. Because consciousness is not separate. The quantum field is not divided into individual territories. When you shift into coherence with your highest potential, you're literally upgrading the possibilities available to every other consciousness in your environment. Your choice to live authentically makes it easier for others to access their authenticity. Your choice to love unconditionally creates morphic resonance that supports others in remembering their own capacity for love. Your choice to trust the intelligence of life generates field effects that help dissolve collective patterns of fear and separation. But here's what makes this even more profound. As you stabilize in your chosen timeline, you begin to understand that you're not just healing your own limitations, you're healing ancestral patterns that have been carried through genetic and energetic lineages for generations. Every family line carries both gifts and wounds through the quantum field of inherited information. Trauma, limiting beliefs, survival patterns, and unresolved emotional content get passed down through epigenetic mechanisms and morphic resonance, creating recurring patterns that show up in each generation until someone with enough consciousness chooses to heal them. When you shift into your chosen timeline, when you choose love over fear, presence over distraction, authentic expression over people-pleasing, you're not just changing your own life. You're interrupting inherited patterns and creating new possibilities for everyone connected to your lineage. Your great-grandmother's unexpressed creativity might be waiting for you to become an artist. Your grandfather's suppressed emotional expression might be resolved through your willingness to feel deeply and speak your truth. Your mother's sacrificial relationship patterns might be healed through your commitment to honoring your own needs while remaining loving and connected. This is the ripple effect of timeline shifting that most people never realize. Personal transformation becomes ancestral healing, which becomes collective evolution. When you embody your highest potential, you're literally upgrading the morphic field of possibility for everyone who shares your genetic, cultural, and energetic lineage. And this healing doesn't just move forward, it moves backward through time. Quantum field theory suggests that information can flow in both directions through the fabric of space-time. When you achieve coherence with your highest timeline, that coherence creates resonance waves that affect not just your future, but your past. Not just your descendants, but your ancestors. This might sound mystical, but consider your own experience. When you've had profound moments of healing or awakening, haven't you noticed that your relationship to past events spontaneously shifted? Experiences that once felt traumatic or limiting suddenly revealed their hidden gifts. Relationships that seemed damaging were recognized as perfect catalysts for your growth. Challenges that felt overwhelming were understood as exactly the experiences needed to develop your unique strengths. This is retroactive healing through timeline coherence. When you align with your chosen timeline, you don't just change your future. You transform your past by shifting the meaning and energy you assign to previous experiences. This is why your individual timeline shift matters so much. This is why your personal transformation is actually a gift to the entire web of life. As we move toward the integration of this understanding, I want to share one final recognition. Your chosen timeline is not a destination you arrive at and then maintain forever. It's a frequency you tune into more and more consistently as you remember who you actually are underneath all the social conditioning and survival programming. There will be moments when you temporarily lose coherence with this frequency. There will be days when old patterns resurface, when familiar fears arise, when you find yourself operating from limitation instead of possibility. This is not failure. This is not evidence that you're doing something wrong or that timeline shifting doesn't work. This is the natural process of integration, consciousness learning to embody higher frequencies through a nervous system that was designed for much simpler challenges. When you notice yourself slipping back into old timeline patterns, don't judge it or fight it or try to force yourself back into alignment. Simply pause, breathe, and gently redirect your attention toward coherence. Remember that every moment offers you the choice to align with your highest timeline. Remember that consciousness is always available to support this alignment. Remember that you are never separated from the creative intelligence that governs all of existence. You are an expression of that intelligence, temporarily focused through the lens of human experience. And from this place of remembering, make the next choice that feels most aligned with your authentic nature. Take the next action that generates energy rather than depletes it. Speak the next words that create connection rather than separation. This is how timeline shifting becomes a way of being rather than a spiritual technique. This is how you stabilize in the frequency of your chosen reality. Before we complete this exploration together, I want to invite you to participate in a quantum field experiment. Drop one word below that captures the energy you're choosing to embody as you align with your highest timeline. Don't overthink it. Let the word arise naturally from the part of you that knows exactly what you came here to express. This isn't just a comment. This is an energetic signature to the quantum field. It's a declaration of the frequency you're choosing to broadcast as you navigate your chosen timeline. And when enough of us align with the same intention, when enough of us choose love over fear, presence over distraction, possibility over limitation, we create collective coherence that makes these higher timelines accessible to everyone. The more of us who embody our chosen timelines, the more the world reflects the truth that consciousness creates reality, that love is the fundamental force of the universe, and that every being is worthy of experiences that support their highest becoming. If you feel called to stay connected to this frequency, if this exploration has awakened something in you that wants to continue expanding, then subscribe not just to stay connected, but to stay coherent with the remembrance of who you actually are. Subscribe to join a community of consciousness that's committed to embodying their highest timelines, not just for personal fulfillment, but for the transformation of our entire reality. Because the truth is, your chosen timeline is not just about you. It's about the love you came here to express, the gifts you came here to share, the healing you came here to facilitate, and the contribution you came here to make to the awakening of consciousness on this planet. Your timeline shift ripples out into the quantum fabric of existence and makes it easier for everyone else to remember their own magnificence. This is how individual transformation becomes collective transformation. This is how choosing your highest timeline serves the highest good of all beings. This is how consciousness remembers itself through form and creates realities that reflect its true nature. Infinite love, infinite creativity, infinite possibility. You have already shifted. You are already in your chosen timeline. The only question now is how deeply you're willing to embody this truth, how consistently you're willing to choose alignment over resistance, how fully you're willing to trust the intelligence that brought you into existence to support you in fulfilling why you came. The quantum field is waiting for your next choice. Reality is ready to reflect your next level of coherence. Your chosen timeline is already here, already available, already streaming toward you at the speed of love. All you have to do is say yes. All you have to do is align. All you have to do is remember that you are not separate from the creative intelligence of the universe. You are that intelligence, expressing itself through the unique and irreplaceable lens of your human experience. And from this place of remembering, every choice you make becomes a quantum shift toward the reality you came here to create. Welcome to your chosen timeline. You've already arrived. Consider returning to this exploration each morning for the next 7 days. Let these frequencies calibrate your nervous system to recognize timeline shifts as they happen. And if someone in your life is ready to remember their own quantum nature, share this with them. When you transmit these understandings to others, you strengthen your own coherence with the field while creating energetic ripples that make higher timelines more accessible for everyone. Now, since you've shifted into recognition of your chosen timeline, you're ready to understand something even more profound: how quantum manifestation operates in reverse, why working backwards from your desired reality is the key to effortless creation. This revelation about the true mechanics of manifestation will show you exactly why most people struggle with creating change and how to align with the quantum field's natural creative process.